Welcome to Profit and Prosper, a podcast for entrepreneurs who are ready to make some money while doing what they love. On this podcast, we're going to pull back the curtain and talk about all things business and money. But I promise you, this is not your typical boring numbers talk. I'm your host, Sarah Young, a CPA and CFO with over a decade of experience in finance, business, and leadership. I'm going to share everything I've learned from helping my clients grow more profitable businesses and keep more of what they earn while growing my own successful business along the way. You'll feel empowered and confident that you too can grow your wealth, live a rich life, and have an impact. Stick with me and you might even start to think that finance is fun. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the podcast, y'all. This is episode 63, and this episode is inspired by a lot of the conversations that I have been having lately with prospective new clients, just from what I'm seeing people put in our inquiry form and the conversations that I've been having in our actual consults. And I just want to talk about what it means to have a financial support team. Because I find in many cases that people don't always understand what the different roles exactly are when it comes to finance. We kind of just lump all things finance together into one bucket. And so in this episode, I want to talk about what it means to have a financial support team, what the different roles are going to do for you, and what they won't do. And we'll talk about when I think you need to be hiring these different roles or getting support in the different areas. But before we talk about that, I want to pose a question. Why do so many business owners settle for mediocre support when it comes to money stuff? And I say that with some confidence. I would say that the vast majority of you listening have mediocre financial support, meaning you feel ho-hum about it, meaning it's not giving you all the things that you want it to give you, and you feel like you could do better, but it's hard to put a finger on exactly what you could get that's better. And I know this because this is what 95% of people tell me when we get on consults. It's that, they've hired a bookkeeper, they've hired a tax accountant, and it just isn't giving them what they need. And so why is this the norm? And I don't want to go off on a huge rant, but this is something that really bothers me. I think that it is driven by the accounting industry as a whole for decades has been very focused on compliance support. And what I mean by compliance support is just helping you get done what has to be done for tax purposes. Get your bookkeeping done and get your tax return prepared because the IRS wants you to file this every year in the state. Most of what you're going to find out there in the marketplace for small businesses is going to be very reactive, compliance-focused support. And why the accounting industry does this, I don't know. I've been listening to some podcasts for the accounting industry where they talk about just the history of, how all of these different things have come about and why it's focused the way that it is. I don't love it. And that's why I structure my business and my services the way that I have, is because I don't think that it's enough. So why do we settle for ho-hum support when it comes to your money? Y'all, your money stuff. Tell me why that's not one of the absolute most important things that goes on in your business. I think there's probably a lot of different reasons for that. Primarily, it's just we, meaning accountants as an industry, have conditioned people to think that that's what the financial support is supposed to be. But I also think there's a lot of layers around money related to your mindset and the way that you think and feel and believe about money that makes you think that you don't need better support, or you're not worthy of it, or you don't make enough money to get better support. And I say that that is BS, okay? So let's dive into the different roles. And as I talk through these, I want you to understand that there is a wild difference between getting the reactive and compliance-based support that you're probably used to getting versus having proactive and strategic support. Most people that fill out my inquiry form that I get on consults with tell me that they deeply desire the proactive and strategic support. but they're so used to the inexpensive, may I say cheap, reactive compliance-based support that the difference in the cost of the strategic and proactive support, even though I firmly believe the value is there, and I'll talk about why in the CFO, when I talk about the CFO role and the tax strategy role, it can be a shock. And then I'll also tell you, not to go on another rant, I feel like me as a CPA, as a CFO in the finance industry, in consults with people, I'm having to convince people who are used to having mediocre to crappy support that there is actually a better option. Like people are so used to having crappy support that they almost don't even believe. They don't even believe me when I say that better support is available. End rant. Let's talk about the different roles and what they do and when you need them. So we are going to go through bookkeepers, tax accountants, CFO, financial advisors, and I'm also going to talk about money coaching. So let's dive into the first one, which is your bookkeeper. I would say that a bookkeeper is probably one of the first people that I recommend that business owners add to their finance team. And I would say hire one if it takes you more than 2 to 3 hours a month to take care of your bookkeeping, or if you hate doing bookkeeping so much and it overwhelms you so much that you avoid it and you don't do it. So this is when you need to hire a bookkeeper, probably early on. Now, I want to talk about what a bookkeeper does because I think that people get this mixed up all of the time. Bookkeepers in general, I'm not talking about every single one, but bookkeepers in general are going to be focused on more of the administrative stuff around handling your finances. And what I mean by that is they are going to be doing the coding of the transactions that come through your bank account. They will hopefully help you keep up with your receipts. They will reconcile your bank accounts. They might be running you reports, generally just exporting whatever QuickBooks or your accounting software generates. But these are the types of things that are just administrative, getting the data put into your finances to be able to run reports for you that you can use for other purposes. Other purposes being doing your taxes, understanding your numbers, making decisions about your business. Like those are the things they're not doing for you. They are preparing your financials so that you can do everything else. So you need to have financials in order to do the other things. This is like the foundational piece. But what I find is that, there's definitely really good bookkeepers out there. And if you have one, like hold on to them as much as you can, because there's some bookkeepers who are also good at helping you understand what the numbers mean. And this is not every bookkeeper. And I also don't necessarily think it's fair to pay a bookkeeper the rates that you're probably paying them and then also expect them to do the strategic analysis of what's going on with your financials. But some of them definitely can help you with that, answer questions. But by and large, I would say that piece is more of a CFO. So a bookkeeper, when you pay for bookkeeping, it is going to be paying for the administrative stuff. I find that there's a difference between hiring somebody to do admin work and then someone to do the strategic work. And so I have had several examples of where we have clients either in our tax package or who come in for our CFO intensive who have a bookkeeper and are keeping them, which is totally fine. And, we ask them like, hey, can you restructure the chart of accounts? Because in a lot of cases, they're just out of control and they're not structured well. And I can't even get any information out of it without restructuring the way that it's presented, right? We'll ask them to do things like that, or like their clients, will come and say, hey, well, why was I not profitable? What is going on? Can you help me to tell the story? And that is not administrative type of work, okay? That is strategic type work. So keep that in mind when you have a bookkeeper. If it takes you more than 2 to 3 hours a month to do your own books, outsource it. If you dread doing it, if you avoid it at all costs, outsource it, because you need financials to be able to do some of the bigger picture stuff that we're going to talk about. So the next role is your tax accountant. Within the realm of taxes, there are different types of support that you can get. So there's tax prep, tax planning, and tax strategy. Tax prep is what probably every single one of you are getting from, your tax preparer that you get. So it's like once a year, you give them your finances, give them all your numbers, give them all your tax forms. They will prepare your tax return for you. And that's it. Tax prep is literally just meant to be, putting the numbers onto the tax form. Hopefully, they're also exercising some, review of your financials to make sure that it's right. But I think people don't realize when you sign your tax return, even if you get it done by a tax preparer, you as the taxpayer are the one who is ultimately responsible for what goes on your tax return. And so we would hope that your tax preparer would look deeper into the financials that you're giving them in the tax forms and ask the questions to make sure they're right. But I've seen it many, many times where they don't. They just put the numbers that you give them on the tax form in the right spot. Okay. I do not do tax prep by itself because I don't think that for business owners, I don't think that's enough. We, with our concierge tax package and then all of our other services that include taxes, we kind of make you do tax planning and strategy. I'll tell you why as I explain what they are. So tax planning involves, this is my definition, some people sort of mix up tax planning and strategy into one sort of bucket, but they're related. Tax planning basically involves projecting out what your tax liability is going to be for the year so that you can get ahead of it. So at a really basic level, as my team and I are doing tax planning for clients, we're drafting a return for them early in the year. So this is May as I record this. We're drafting a full 2023 return in May of 2023, just projecting out what we think it's going to look like so that we can help them understand if you do this in your business, this is what your tax liability will be. This is how much we need to be setting aside. So tax planning is just figuring out what the number is going to be if things land the way that we think they're going to. Tax strategy is where we think about different ways, different levers that you can pull to reduce your tax bill. The most common one would be retirement investments. What's the ideal amount to put into retirement accounts to save on taxes, right? I like to go beyond that. There's a lot of other tax strategies we can do. I have other episodes on the podcast talking about tax strategies, but it's really figuring out with all of the tools that I have in my tool belt to help you save on taxes in the short term and in the long term, what is the best one for you to use this year? Most tax firms out there do not automatically do either of those things, which I know causes so much frustration for people because without tax planning, you end up with a huge tax bill at the end of the year because you weren't planning ahead for it. And without tax strategy, you're not being proactive and strategic about reducing your tax bill, right? Your taxes are probably one of the biggest expenses that you end up having during the year, unfortunately, right? And it causes a lot of frustration for people who desperately want the help to save on taxes, but they're not getting it with once a year tax prep. So when do you need all of these things? I think if you just started your business, your volume's pretty low, and if you have a pretty straightforward, easy type of business, like a service-based business or something like that, you could probably get away with a TurboTax type of tax prep software. But I would say if there's any part of you that is worried about doing your tax return wrong at that point, just go hire a tax preparer, right? Just do the once a year tax prep. That's totally fine. I think when you're at, on the smaller side in business, I think that once you get to a place where you are making enough money to pay yourself a good salary, usually that would be $50,000 to $75,000 of profit in your business, then you are going to incur a larger tax bill and you're going to hopefully be ready to implement some tax strategies. And let me be clear, there's a few tax strategies we can do that don't require spending money. It's just a structural change for your business that could help us save on taxes. But for most other strategies, it's going to involve allocating some cash. And so you have to have the cash to allocate above and beyond your paycheck to be able to implement those strategies, okay? So I would say once you get to the point where you have a solid profit in your business and therefore you have a tax bill, it is time to start implementing a tax plan and strategy. So let's move on to the CFO role. I like to think about it in terms of a traditional corporation. A lot of us have worked for large companies before. Think about what the CFO did in that large corporation. They manage the entire finance department of a business, including bookkeeping, including accountants, including taxes, financial reporting, treasury, which includes your banking and loans, financial planning, which includes budgets and forecasts, and the overall financial strategy of the business. So that is obviously a lot, right? You may not have all of that in your small business, at least not on a scale where you need a full-time person to manage all of those things. But I want you to understand that there is a huge difference between bookkeeping and CFO services for small businesses. I'm not trying to call anybody out, but I see a lot of people out there who offer, quote unquote, they call it CFO services, but it's really just bookkeeping with some reporting thrown in. And they may also combine taxes and call it CFO. I don't think that that is really a true CFO service. And I'll tell you why. I think by going through what a CFO does. At a high level, your CFO is handling your reporting and your strategy, or maybe not handling, like I don't view it as my role as a CFO to tell you what to do, but I view it as my role to present the information in such a way that it makes your decision-making as the CEO easier. So the reporting, what I mean by that is we're not just looking at your QuickBooks P&L, because in many cases that doesn't actually tell us anything helpful, right? You have to understand how to interpret the data that's in that report to answer the questions of what is making us money and what is not. How can we make more money? How can we reach our goals? What are the goals in the first place, right? That's what a CFO does. So here are some of the specific things that we do for our CFO clients at Young & Co. to help them be proactive and strategic. So first and foremost, we do budgeting and forecasting. What that means is we take your historical numbers, we sit down with you and talk about what's going to happen in the next 12, 24, 36 months, what's going on in your business, and we figure out what your goals are personally for you to take money home, and we help you come up with a forecast of what is your business going to look like from your sales and your expenses and profit. We'll help you figure out like when things can happen, when you can afford to hire a team, for example. We help figure out what is the revenue goal that you need. And so like when we do our budgeting and forecasting process, we are looking at what are all the projected cash outflows that you're going to have. So from all of your expenses, payroll, marketing, office expenses, and your pay goal, your profit goal. And then we'll help you figure out how much revenue do you need to have coming in to meet those goals. We also will take it a step further and look at, for those of you who have contracts going out, we'll look at the revenue that you already have committed and we'll tell you what your gap is. And we help you track this over time, right? So this is forecasting. We also do KPI reporting. And so that is where we really figure out, what are the key things that you need to track from a financial perspective to help you understand if you are on track to meeting your goals or not. And so we will put that into a report dashboard. So we're not just exporting the QuickBooks P&L. We have another whole Google Sheet thing that we track all of your key performance indicators in to help you understand what is going on. We also do things like a profit assessment and improvement plan. So we'll help you figure out, looking at your P&L, what's going on with your finances? Is your profitability okay? Is your cash flow okay? How can we improve this? We'll help with financial systems, meaning we help our clients, improve their payroll systems and implement new payroll systems. That's something that we do with basically everyone because payroll seems to be difficult to set up the right way for a lot of people. Billing and collections will help you figure out, if you have significant accounts receivable, how can you collect on those faster? We can help you figure out a process for billing and making billing easier so you can get paid. We help our CFO clients with their team pay structure and incentive plans. So a lot of our clients at that level have larger teams and they need help thinking about, not just when you can afford to hire someone new, but also, How can you incentivize them with bonuses or profit sharing plans and benefits? And we'll help lay all of the cost of those things out so you can figure out at what point can you afford those and what should you be putting into place. We also help with cash flow forecasting and management, meaning we'll look at your cash balance in your bank account and project out like, hey, over the next 30, 60 days, what is your cash balance going to look like with all of your income and expenses coming in? Are you going to have any shortfalls? Do you have any excess? What should you do with that? All that kind of stuff. So obviously that's a lot, right? That's a lot more than just basic bookkeeping. This is where we get to the more proactive, strategic support that people want. So I don't think that you need a full-time CFO until your business, or unless your business is at least in the 8-figure range. We have some of our bigger clients have about 10, 12 million in revenue coming in, and we still can support them on a fractional basis because none of the things that I'm listing out need to be done on a full-time basis, right? I think that businesses, when you get up to, it depends on the industry, 20 million, 30 million, 40 million in revenue, at that point, you need a full-time like in-house CFO probably. That's going to not be cheap, right? All the things I'm talking about are not cheap. The trouble is this goes for seven-figure businesses, high 7 figures, even to low 8 figures. I've seen a lot of examples of people hiring someone to be their full-time finance team member. And the trouble is you either hire someone who is very skilled at the big picture strategic stuff and you pay them a lot of money, but because none of those things I listed need to be done full time, this person that you're paying a lot of money ends up doing a lot of the administrative stuff. So you're basically overpaying them because they don't need to be doing that job full time. Or on the other hand, I see people who hire a, more administrative accounting manager type of person. And then, they obviously do the bookkeeping, AR, AP stuff in the business that needs to happen, but then they're not able and it's not their fault, it's just not their skill set. They can't do the more strategic stuff well. And so there tends to be frustration there. So I find that businesses that get to, I'd say, mid to high 6 figures in revenue start to run up to where they need some of this strategy support, maybe not on a monthly basis. It depends on how fast they're growing and how big your team is. Maybe you don't need it on a monthly basis, but you need it a couple times a year, maybe once a quarter. You need a touch point, right? When you get to 7 figures, definitely by the point you get to about 2 million in revenue, I really think that you need to have a monthly touch point, if not more frequently, with a CFO, with a fractional CFO, because you're going to have the team size that you need to have that support. You're going to have the cash, like the volume of cash coming in and out of your business when you hit, 7 figures is a lot. It's a lot to manage. And so you need to make sure that you are managing it well. All right, so that was a CFO. Let me touch on the last two. So financial advisors and money coaches. Financial advisors, I'm not going to go too deep into this. If you go back and listen to episode 25, I interviewed Caitlin Carlson, who is a wealth advisor, and we talked about the different types of roles, that you could have, or the different things to look for with financial planners. There's a difference, though, in a financial planner and someone who manages your investments. And so this is going to be on the personal side of the house, right? Everything we've talked about up until now is business, except I guess your taxes, tax accountants, we cover both your business taxes and then also your personal taxes. So tax accountants kind of see it all, right? Your financial planner is going to be focused on your personal finances. And I think that unless you have multiple millions invested, like multiple millions invested, you do not need to have anyone managing your investments because they're going to charge you 1% of your assets every year, which might sound small, but if you do the math, it really, really eats into your investment growth. And in most cases, what we see is they invest it in just sort of a standard way. They invest your money and they're not trading it, y'all. They're not moving the money around a lot. They're going to leave it in their investment allocation and maybe check on it every now and then. This is not something I think you need to be paying people 1% of your assets for until you have multiple millions in the bank, okay? I do think that it can be helpful to have a financial plan done, meaning someone sits down with you and talks about how much do you need to have to retire? What does your personal budget look like? What do you need to contribute to get to your financial goal, or your retirement or fire goal? And, what is the best investment allocation, meaning what account should you set up? How should you invest the money? What allocation should you make? They can tell you this one time, and then you can go set it up and then kind of just let it be, right? You don't need to be touching it all the time. So I think that having a financial planner can be helpful. There's people you can go to and get a one-time plan done and then just kind of touch base as needed, right? I think this is a much better option than the, more traditional, hey, put all your money in with this wealth management firm, and then they take 1% of your assets every year, which really sucks. Okay, and then the last role is money coaching. And I want to talk about this here because this is definitely also finance related. This industry of coaching, of money coaching, is definitely newer compared to the rest of the roles. And I do think that it is really interesting. I think that it's a different way of looking at handling money stuff as compared to just going the traditional, financial planner, tax accountant route. Here's the thing. I think money coaches, this is not like a regulated term in any way. And so money coaches can focus on a lot of different things. I think that a lot of them out there do a good job of like breaking down the basic financial stuff that can be overwhelming to people. But, they're not obviously going to be doing a personal financial plan for you. They're not going to be helping you answer questions about taxes unless, maybe they're licensed maybe they have a CPA license and they can talk about taxes, but always take, tax advice from non-tax accountants with a grain of salt. Okay. But I think that money coaching is really interesting because it tends to focus a lot on your money mindset and money habits, which is not something that a traditional financial planner, bookkeeper, or tax accountant is going to talk about. And as you know, if you've listened to this podcast for a while, I think this is important. And so I think it can be really interesting to work on those things, right? And so I think money coaching can help you identify if you have any habits that are not serving you, can also help you take those first steps into building wealth if you're not doing that already, into setting up your retirement accounts, into paying off debt if you have it, into digging into why do you have all of that debt in the first place, right? What are the mindsets and habits you have that are not serving you? Like that's what money coaching is for. And so when do you need this? This one's up to you. I think if you have mindsets and habits that don't serve you, if you feel like you are not going to be able to get a handle on your personal financial situation, get a money coach. Just understand that most of them out there are not going to be tailored to business owners. They are going to be tailored at employees. If you look at the population of the United States, there's, I think, 330 million people or so. The last time I checked, there are about 30 million businesses. That means only 10% of the population has a business, right? The other 90% is employees. And so that advice that you're going to get from money coaches and also probably from most financial planners is going to be geared at employees. And that is a very different situation than if you are full-time in your business. Okay, so keep those things in mind. If you're looking both for financial planners and money coaches, they may not really truly understand the different cash flow situation that you have when you have a business. We've talked about bookkeepers, tax accountants, including tax prep, planning, and strategy. We talked about CFOs, personal financial advisors or financial planners, and money coaches. I think that covers all the finance roles. So hopefully that helps you understand what they do and when you need to hire one. I'm going to wrap this up with our services at Young & Co. because I want to talk about what we do and why I've structured them the way that I've structured them. I've really just recently begun to think of my services in two different buckets. Like I almost have created a second business in the last 6 to 9 months without really intending to. So I have our, agency, accounting firm, not accounting firm, but like CFO firm business that has been the business that we've had for 4+ years. And then more recently, I have started a more coaching type business, which interestingly, before I started Young and Co., I have all of my notes. I wanted to do money coaching, and I didn't even realize that there was a whole industry around money coaching back in the day. This was like 2017. And so I think that me creating my coaching programs is really going back to that because it's what I've wanted to do for a long time. I just, for some reason, went the traditional CPA route when I first started my business, and then those services morphed into our agency, which I also think is great and is what is needed to help people be proactive and strategic. So within our agency, we have our concierge tax, we have the finance suite, and we have our CFO services. Our concierge tax package is tax prep, tax planning, tax strategy. It's a full year of support. This is ideal for business owners who, like I said before, are making enough money in your business to be able to pay yourself. You've got some excess left over. You want to start thinking next level about how to handle your money to save on taxes. You want to start putting money into investments, and you want to make sure you're doing that in the most tax advantaged way. That is what our concierge tax service is. We have quarterly check-ins with our team, and then, focused on helping you create a tax plan and a strategy and all those things. So that's our concierge tax service. The next level up is our finance suite. This is sort of like a CFO light, if you will. I just kind of renamed it. The finance suite is everything that we do in our concierge tax service. So all of the tax support from our tax team, plus my accounting team, who is also amazing. They're the best of the best. They do bookkeeping. They do monthly reporting. And then you get quarterly tax meetings with your tax strategist. You also get quarterly CFO strategy sessions with me. Or maybe you're listening to this down the road and I have another CFO. Maybe you have it with our other CFO. I'm manifesting, y'all. And then you'll have a monthly check-in with our accounting manager to review your financials. And so there's a lot of support there from, across our team. We're getting more into the proactive strategic side of things because we have the tax planning, tax strategy coming in, and then the quarterly CFO strategy sessions. I find that this is helpful for multi-six-figure businesses up into, low seven-figure businesses. Like I just had a consult with a business coach. Their business is so low overhead and such high profit that I don't think that they need the ongoing monthly CFO, but they could use the quarterly strategy sessions and they could use the better reporting, right? Because they do have a large volume of cash going in and out. So the finance suite would be our next level up in terms of support. And then the top tier would be our CFO services. And so this is everything that I talked about with the CFO role before. This is what we do. So the CFO services, we start with what I call a CFO intensive. This is a 60 to 90 day project. It's a one-time project. I've structured it so all new CFO clients come into this project because it helps us to make onboarding better. It helps us to get you cleaned up and organized much more quickly by doing it in this way. I found that sometimes it would drag on a bit just because we know that we have clients on a retainer and there was less urgency to get things sort of cleaned up and set up and get a forecast put together. But we have now structured it to be a project to get it done really quickly so that we can move on to our maintenance, which would be our CFO monthly retainer, where we are keeping everything updated. We are addressing questions as they happen, helping you as your business grows and all of that. But we have the foundational stuff done because we did it in the intensive. And it is my goal for 2023 by the end of the year to have a financial planning offering built into our services. And so what that means is I'm looking to hire a financial planner who is good at working with business owners to come in and help them with the personal financial plan so that we can take that information on the tax side and make sure that our tax strategy reflects the personal financial plan. And then on the CFO side, we can help design your business that will get you the money that you need on the personal side. And so just really bringing it completely in-house with different teams, of course, and making it really holistic because that's what I think we all need to be doing. And then that's actually bringing up one other point. I've heard a lot of people say well, shouldn't I hire different companies to do all of the different roles in finance because I don't want to be stuck with one person's viewpoint. I need multiple viewpoints. And I would say yes. Yes to the multiple viewpoints because I think that if you have one person doing the bookkeeping and your taxes and forecasting and all of that, like they might miss something. And so that is why I have a team. We have an in-house controller accounting manager. She manages the bookkeeping, the reporting, helps coordinate all the payroll and things. We have an in-house CPA who is our tax strategist. And so she helps coordinate all of the tax planning and strategy for our clients. And then you obviously have me as the CFO and who's sort of the big picture person, right? And so we have different people to make sure that we have layers of review and we're not missing things. And then the last thing is obviously I have the Millionaire CEO Incubator. This is what I was talking about when I said I started a second business and didn't realize that I was starting a second business, but it really is like a whole separate offering. The incubator is designed for businesses who are making anywhere from about 5 to 15K months and want to be able to get past the point where they're burned out all the time and solopreneuring and be able to start hiring a team, creating a more profitable business. My goal for you in this program is to increase your profit margins to 30 to 50% to be able to pay yourself $100K from your business, get yourself on that track on a monthly basis within 6 months. And so I love this program. I think it's amazing. It's something that I'm heavily focused on in 2023. I've actually had several clients go through the program and then upgrade into our tax package because they're making so much money. And so it all works really nicely together, if I do say so myself. But the incubator is there, for those of you who don't need that like full CFO service yet, but you want the strategy support and you want to be able to cash flow more and increase your profit. So that's what that is. And then I have more stuff coming. I have so many ideas. I won't go into it all now, but that is how it all works. So hopefully this was helpful, whether you want to work with my team and I or not. Hopefully it was at least helpful for you to understand what the different roles are within finance land, what you need, what you maybe don't need just yet, and what you need if you want to make the switch from being reactive to proactive and strategic. So that's it for this episode. If you want to talk about any of those offerings, just send me a DM on Instagram at It's Sarah Young, or you can go to my website at trustyoungco.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page. There's an inquiry form. You can fill that one out, and me or my team will be in touch with you to talk about next steps. So until then, I will see you later. When this episode comes out, I will be on a beach vacation with a mastermind of women business owners. And so I'm going to be having a lot of fun, and I hope that you have fun in this May. The weather's beautiful, and I will see you back here next week, y'all. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Now, I want you to go take some action. What's one thing you can do this week to create more profit in your business? Send me a DM on Instagram at YoungCoCFO and share your action item with me. If you have a question or topic you'd like me to dive into, or if you're feeling empowered about taking charge of your finances, let's continue the conversation. Go to profitandprosper.co to submit a question or topic for me to talk about on the show. And because we all profit and prosper better with friends, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe wherever you listen, and share the episode. Make sure you tag me at YoungCoCFO on Instagram so I can give you some love, and I'll see you in the next episode.